And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Going to talk about some Michigan Wolverines football news, a couple notes, plus the Lions keeping offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, the Red Wings free falling, but at the same time making a type of like minor league trade. The Pistons still tanking. A check in on college football with the Wolverines and the Michigan State Spartans, and some financial information regarding Detroit Tigers television color commentator Jack Morris in terms of his future at Bally Sports Detroit. First off, follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like its Facebook page, subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and listen in audio form on Spreaker. So, let's get started here. Despite all the rumors of NFL interviews, Jim Harbaugh still the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. So let's get to that first before we get to Matt Weiss. Jim Harbaugh, he's been down this road before, and so have we.
Yes, we have. Yes, we certainly have, Taylor. As we can all, if you can remember back to last year, or I guess you can say the end of 2021. But I guess, yeah, you might as well say last year because it was after, the calendar had flipped over. But anyway, I digress. Jim Harbaugh had received significant traction in regards to potential return to the NFL. So much so that he was seriously considering leaving the Michigan Wolverines for the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings of all teams. It was very serious, got down to the interview process. One thing led to another, and something might have changed at the 11th hour. Long story short, Harbaugh announced he was staying. Of course, with some significant upticks, bonuses, because let's not forget he did volunteer to get his to take a pay cut in 2021, which is understandable. So now when you fast forward to this past season where you repeat as Big Ten champions, you beat Ohio State once again, you make your second straight college football playoff. It's not going to be a surprise when you hear that chatter start to raise up a little bit more again. Even though, again, Harbaugh has stated numerous times about his intentions of wanting to stay in Michigan, the rumors and the murmurs still persist. With your Adam Schefters, your Albert Breers, the Ian Rappaports, all the likes of the NFL media. And don't get me wrong, there were some interesting feelers. I definitely believe that the Broncos were without a doubt interested. Seeing how much of a disaster Daniel Hackett was with Russell Wilson, they figured, okay, why don't we get a guy who knows how to work with QBs? And hey, he may know a thing or two about Russell Wilson because he went against him head-to-head for 3 years or so in the NFC West. So I get that. But that didn't pan out. Neither did any interest from the Indianapolis Colts or the Carolina Panthers. I think in terms of understanding the best fit for Jim right now, regards to both his professional life, personal life, family, atmosphere, culture, setting, when you name it. Frankly, I think you can't get it any better than what you got here in Michigan. When you know how close knit that program, how much that university and program means to him and his heart and his family. When you consider that he could practically raise his whole family in and around Ann Arbor, what better deal could you ask for if you're Jim Harbaugh? Unless you weren't getting particular perks or understanding on particular perks to help you out and to help your team out. Now that may be the case. I don't know if he had a recent falling out with Ward Manuel, whether it be in regards to NIL or other matters, so to speak, or at least letting it be known in the atmosphere that Harbaugh might have gotten an interest or an interview from a team, but it's clear without a doubt his main goal was staying in Michigan. Somehow I know that got misconstrued. I think there is a Twitter thread that someone posted. I have it retweeted up on my profile. You guys can check it out. Which is like a mini thread of how there was a bit of disagreements to where at one point it was a consideration where if Harbaugh got a serious offer, he may have left. And had it not been for the new president, Santa Ono, stepping in, it might very well have been a possibility that Jim Harbaugh could have left. Now, I don't know what this means or what this says about the status with Ward Manuel of his tenure going forward, but considering the fact that, while, yes, the Michigan football program has had more unprecedented heights and success that they've had in a good number of years, there have been also, unfortunately, some lingering negative issues that have come to light as of late. Some out of Jim Harbaugh's control, some that are within his control, whether it be, the Mozzie Smith situation or, in my opinion, the meaningless burger situation in regards to the NCAA violations or whatever if you want to construe it as that, among other things. Now, we'll get to the Matt Weiss stuff in a minute, but when you factor in all these other little things, and then, of course, when you consider how there was a height of uncertainty in the air about what was going to happen in regards to Jim Harbaugh's future in Michigan, had it not been for the U of M president stepping in, you got to wonder what is going to be on the docket for Ward Manuel and his status as a lead director moving forward. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, and it's a developing story that we'll have to stay on top of, at least for right now. I'm not really sure how long it'll take.
I'll say this.
We always never know. We always don't know how long it'll take.
I'll say this at the very least. If you could tell or just read the room by listening and looking at the comments made by U of M players or actions done even by U of M players in recent weeks, whether it was Donovan Edwards with his comments saying basically, yeah, he knew that coach was coming back, or frankly, this big hint. If Jim Harbaugh was leaving, there's no way Blake Corum was coming back for a senior year.
Right.
Think about that. If Blake Corum's coming back for one more year, then yeah, that alone should tell you that he expected to see Coach Harbaugh coming back.
The mutual respect is real, I tell you, between Harbaugh and Corum.
His players, period. They get it. They understand. At least they should understand it.
Yeah. And Donovan Edwards is still there. Cornelius Johnson's returning. But
despite the issues the team may have had, whether it be losing Cade McNamara and Eric Allen amongst other players to the transfer portal, they've gotten some other players back in return themselves. So it's not like this offseason has been a wash or a loss or anything. Like, no. If you think the recruiting could be a little bit better, fine. Okay, I understand that. We still have ways to go if we want to get to that level of Ohio State. Not Ohio State, excuse me, of Georgia and Alabama. But at the moment, you should know and have comfort knowing that the Big Ten, the entirety of the Big Ten, runs through Ann Arbor. You got to go through the Wolverines if you want to win the Big Ten. That status had belonged to Ohio State for so many years. Now it's with Michigan.
Yep, it has. So, gonna have to see what the Wolverines bring to the table. Right now, they're third behind Ohio State again, just like they were before the game when Michigan clobbered Ohio State 45-23. And I believe Ohio State's still keeping Ryan Day while C.J. Stroud is declaring for the NFL draft. Don't you?
Yeah, know? Well, yeah, it was expected that Stroud was going to declare more than likely anyway. And I don't blame him for doing so. It would have been a very high risk for him to come back for another year when he's already a virtually guaranteed top 3 or 5 draft pick. This is a far different case with Blake Corum, of where Corum's stock, even if he had not gotten hurt, probably would have been at his ceiling a second round pick, and that was before he got injured against Illinois. So, knowing that, among other reasons why he decided to come back for one more year, I think another reason could have been the raise his draft stock. That's always a possibility.
Yeah, it might be. So, I believe that's everything that we've covered for Michigan Wolverines football.
Except for the Matt Weiss issue.
Oh,
we
yeah,
to briefly touch on that before we move on completely from the Wolverines.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Frank Vajner pointed to us in our messenger group that he wasn't arrested for it, so it might not be a sex crime.
No, it's not. If anything, and I've looked at some of the reports. If anything, it revolves around him using some university emails without proper authorization. So that is what apparently this all boils down to. Now, if it comes down to the fact that, hey, he was checking or trying to send an email, and he didn't get the proper permission, okay. Now, if this leads to something else, sure, we can go down that route. But at the moment, I just don't see anything truly nefarious or so scandalous about checking some emails without the proper permission. Just like I think there wasn't so evil something's about getting a kid a burger during COVID protocols. Like, stop it, people. Stop trying to make mountains out of molehills. Stop it.
Right. One way or the other, either way, it's one way or the other. Either way, it's probably not gonna get him into much trouble. And
I won't say that, because the NCAA, they are going to be peeking their head in more now, because granted, you weren't hearing any of this stuff coming up when Michigan wasn't winning as much as they have been recently. You're only hearing this now because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten and being in playoff contention. Something we thought should have been happening well earlier by now in the Harbaugh tenure, but it is happening now at least. But when you start to win games, and I've noticed, I paid attention to a lot of college football documentaries. When you're on top and success, that's when all the eyes and attention are going to be on you the most. Even those fleeing from the NCAA investigations, as sham as they can be, proven to be from time to time over the years.
Yeah, I was going to say it is different than not. It is different. The not having permission part. It's definitely something different than what type of crime it would be.
There is still an ongoing investigation, so we still got to let that play out. But from the gist of it,
yes.
And again, you can look at it on maizenbrew.com. They have, again, that's the latest update they have in regards to details of what we all know regarding the Matt Weiss situation at this time.
All right. Well, yep. It's a developing story. Any media outlet would give us that, whether it's Maizen Brew or thewolverine.com, one of the two. So now we transition to pro football. The Detroit Lions, they are going to keep their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. And yes, they need him without the shadow of a doubt. I do want to add that the Arizona Cardinals have requested an interview with Detroit Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn for their head coach opening, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL.com.
Interesting. I doubt nothing will come out of that.
Yeah, I think Aaron Glenn's staying put too. Not confirmed yet, but that's exactly what I see in my crystal ball.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Well, if I can touch briefly on the topic of Ben Johnson before we move on, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that what this tells you, it's more the move that it tells you. Yes, it is one thing about Ben Johnson turning down this offer, but it says a lot of what I think he sees in the Lions and the culture of what they're trying to build all around with this franchise, with this organization. He and Dan Campbell actually have had a pretty close-knit bond. If you look at some quotes that he was quoted as saying when he was still the tight ends coach during Campbell's first year before he got the eventual promotion to offensive coordinator, you look at some of those quotes and some of those interviews, you'll notice, that he and Dan Campbell are pretty much at the hip in terms of how maybe it comes to philosophies or how they probably go at it in terms of going over offensive game plans or the likes of that nature. So knowing of how Ben Johnson was able to essentially be the wizard that cooked up this stew that led to, in my opinion, a top 5, top 3 caliber offense that could score at will, has incredible weapons, whether it be Amon-Ra St. Brown, whether it be the emerging Jameson Williams, whether it would be their tight end core that apparently got better after they traded T.J. Hawkinson. We know, of course, about their running backs. We know about the elusiveness of DeAndre Swift. We saw how much of a vital role that Jamal Williams played during his time. And let's not forget, of course, it comes back to your quarterback, Jared Goff. And when Jared Goff has had the best season that he's had in his career outside of what he did his first few seasons in LA with the Rams that led to him getting to that Super Bowl, he's been magnificent this season. And when, of course, when you factor that in between a top 3 to 5 caliber offensive line, yeah, it's a no-brainer of why this offense has performed the way that they have been. And it goes back to, again, keeping turnover from last year, keeping the chemistry on point, and, of course, your general manager giving you the right versatile weapons. That always balances out perfectly. But when you see of what the product is here versus, let's say, if Carolina wanted to go to him or wanted to go to Arizona, well, again, yeah, think about it. Yeah, if you were to go to Arizona, you're talking about a potential situation of where that franchise is in total clown show, clown show mode at the moment between ownership and general managers they taking leave of absence, and we saw how much of a disaster Cliff Kingsbury was and Kyler Murray. Oh my goodness! And then we compare it to Carolina, to where what this is a team that's in a rebuild mode of themselves, but they have to essentially trust themselves on a rookie QB. That's essentially in and of itself a project versus what you already have here in Detroit and knowing what you can and still have yet to do in Detroit. I think some of the terms that I've heard in terms of regarding research for this was called unfinished business. Also of him being aware of what's been building and he wants to see that come through in Detroit. So I appreciate the fact that he's going to stay at least for 2023. I'm not calling it a guarantee that he's going to stay for, like, say, 2024 and beyond, but at least for this next upcoming season, it is safe to know that the brains behind the operation, which was our high potent offense, he's going to be back for another go around. So I'm already off to a good start, thinking good things for what this team can accomplish for 2023, seeing after what they did in 2022.
Yeah, and Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn share the same mutuality and respect with one another as well. The same way.
Absolutely.
Because I believe that's the reason why Aaron Glenn is possibly going to stay put with the Lions as defensive coordinator. And by the way, one of their tight ends was by the name of Brock Wright. Remember, he scored that game-winning touchdown in New Jersey against the Jets.
Yep, that's not just Brock Wright. Shane Zylstra's had some good moments. James Mitchell had good moments as well. And mind you, like I said, those players had those moments after the Hawkinson trade. So it goes to show of how. And again, when you consider the fact that
and the Pleasant firing, by the way, too.
Yeah, it was. And not to mention the whole Aubrey Pleasant being the upgrade of the defense, so to speak, after the Aubrey Pleasant firing. But going on back on topic, another thing I wanted to point out: Ben Johnson was the tight ends coach before he got promoted offensive coordinator. Dan Campbell will know a thing or two about using tight ends. He was one himself, and he was also a tight ends coach when he first started out as a coach. So he knows a thing or two about utilizing tight ends. So seeing how the tight end group got better even after the Hawkinson trade, that says it all.
Now, that is what I call a connection. No doubt about that.
Absolutely.
So, transitioning to the NHL, the Red Wings, they blew a 3-1 lead in Arizona against the Coyotes and lost 4-3 in a shootout. Where in the shootout, they got dominated 2-0 in 2 rounds. Magnus Hellberg in net. The defense just broke down completely, and Magnus Hellberg couldn't help himself at the same time either in that third period when after the Wings jumped out 3-1 early in that same third period. But it's unacceptable. But I know it's ironic. Both meetings with the Coyotes ended up in a shootout. No matter who won, the Red Wings won the first game. The Coyotes won the second game. But the Red Wings, they're falling behind quite a few spots in the Eastern Conference wildcard spot, but they're still only 6 points behind that second Eastern Conference wildcard spot in the NHL standings. It's still quite a battle on all. But the Red Wings have been suffering unacceptable losses.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even
Like
the
they're in the
Flyers have jumped them. Even John Tortorella's Flyers have jumped them.
yeah,
The
exactly.
Sabres have jumped the Red Wings. Sabres and Flyers, 45 points. The Red Wings, 44 points. The Pittsburgh Penguins, 51 points now. I believe they suffered either an overtime loss or a shootout loss. The New York Islanders at 50 points. Panthers, 47 points. But the Penguins have 51 points. They hold the second wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. 3 points behind the Washington Capitals, who hold the first wild card spot, 54 points. But
Yeah, I
in all,
well, the season is not all lost yet. Granted, things should be much better than what they are now. It doesn't help that you're in the middle of a 3-game losing streak. It doesn't help that you just lost to one of the worst teams in the Metropolitan Division and not one of the worst team, the definitive worst team in the Metropolitan Division, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. The friggin' Blue Jackets.
You fell behind 4-0 in that game.
Okay. And
that really grinded my gears, and that really pissed me off. The same way
after giving up 3 goals in the first, mind you.
Yes, especially the first period.
That leads to another issue that's been plaguing us recently: goaltending issues. Ville Husso, as you saw in the midst of this stretch, he's given up 10 or so goals. He had to get replaced. I would say
by pulled and replaced by substituted by Magnus Hellberg.
Yes, exactly. Pulled for Magnus Hellberg. Hellberg obviously put up a much better showing, but unfortunately, we still didn't get the win. But still, you live with the results of, hey, if you lost by 1 goal in a 4-3 game, sure, but make sure it was back and forth. You weren't digging yourself out of a hole like you would
against the Coyotes.
Exactly.
And they got drilled by the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, 6-3.
Yeah,
in Denver.
I mean, between that and also the fact that Eisman did recently make his move about Nedeljkovic, unfortunately, goaltender has not been one of our strong points, and it's been one of the reasons why they've had this midseason slump. Also, it doesn't help when you keep blowing leads like the way you did against Phoenix. That's costing you valuable points. That's leaving the extra points, valuable extra points on the table that could come back to bite you in the standings later in the year.
Should have had 2 instead of 1.
So Eisman is knowing that. He's aware of that. At the very least, he has to be. That's why he has made a couple of moves that he has made, whether it be the Nedeljkovic trade or the trade that he just made today, getting the minor leaguer Weatherby from the Sharks. Now, because it was that specific player that he gotten, it could mean a potential avenue has been open for Jakub Vrana to stay. Because remember, he was recently placed on waivers, but no one has claimed him yet. So if this goes on and he clears waivers and continues to clear waivers, it could be a potential spot with him working his way back to the team because he has been a healthy scratch.
The NHL product team, that is.
Exactly. He has been a healthy scratch down in Grand Rapids as of late. So with Eisman making this move, getting Weatherby by, who knows? Maybe this could be a sign that Vrana is getting another chance of sort, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah, speaking of waivers, Nedeljkovic was actually put on waivers recently. He cleared them too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, Nedeljkovic has to improve them from there.
Yeah.
Just like everyone else on this team.
What it is, it shows that the rebuild. There's been improvements. There have been strides. In my opinion, I still prefer our current head coach. Compared to the last head coach that we had last season. The fact that the Red Wings are at this point of the season, like you mentioned, 6 points behind for the second wild card spot, and it's the middle of January. We're not even at the All-Star break yet, are we?
Oh, not quite. Still got until February.
Plenty of season, right? So that's plenty of season still left to go here to make some adjustments and turn things around, especially with the trade deadline and whatnot coming up.
Yeah, but you got to get going if you want to catch back up.
Exactly.
You can't just settle for no points or 1 point against bad teams. That's unacceptable.
Nope. Like I said, you got to take your chances and your extra points whenever you get them. You can't leave them out on the table like that.
And no matter who you play, even if it's a good team like the Avalanche, you still got to play better than this. You can't give up so many goals like this. I know you're giving. I know you're not expected to beat them, even if it's in regulation. Even if you lose in regulation, I would prefer like a low-scoring affair by like a goal or two.
All right, but
But
not giving up 4, 5, 6 goals like it's here. You get a turn. You get a turn. No.
no, that doesn't work.
That shows bad defense. Like especially when like one of those losing games. I noticed with the shot track, or the shot chart rather. One of the games with their losing streak. There was a lot of goals given up right in front of the goalkeep. Now, granted, some of that is the bad goaltending, but also that can be set up by bad defense as well when you're giving up point blank shots to the net like that. These are skilled NHL players. They're going to take advantage of the scoring chances more often than not. So improving your defense in front of your net, in front of your goalkeep, is a good start more than anything as well.
Yep. And the Red Wings had to trade Kyle Criscuolo to the San Jose Sharks for center Jasper Weatherby at age 24.
Right.
11 points in 50 games with the Sharks last season, probably the NHL product. 3 goals and 3 assists, 6 points, 39 penalty minutes in 39 games played this season, apparently in the minors with the San Jose Barracuda. Mm-hmm. Technically, I forgot to insert that in there, but I didn't have enough room in this banner. We apologize for any inconvenience. But probably just so, but all in all, just a minor league trade. Kyle Criscuolo was in the minors with the Griffins at that point, prior to this trade. So that's even Steven there. Pistons still taking in 14th place in the NBA Eastern Conference standings at 12-35 with a .255 winning percentage, ahead of the Charlotte Hornets just barely 11-34 with a .244 winning percentage. Pistons not quite in that number one overall draft spot quite yet, but still close. But they're kind of falling out of it, but by slightly improving, even without Cade Cunningham. I'm not sure if Jalen Duren made it to Paris in time.
No, he did.
He forgot.
There was an update.
Did?
Yeah, the update to that story. I was getting ready to let you know that, yeah, there was some issues regarding his passport, but they resolved that he was able to make it to Paris in time. So he will be with the team on tomorrow when they play the Bulls.
All right, that's at 3 p.m. Eastern time, isn't it?
Yeah,
against the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, Eastern time zone, so they gotta go by time zone differential. So that's like what 7, 8, 9 in Paris right now. Well,
yeah,
when it will be.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Okay, yeah, some of that effect. But while this is I guess you could say some form of positive light, you can say the team is going some type of a field trip, if you want to call it that. But it's nice for them to get out, see the sights and sounds of the city, of the nation, see what life in France is like around them. Killian Hayes, let's not forget, he's French as well. Also, you mentioned the potential draft pool, draft lottery pool that the Pistons, I think they still find themselves in. Like, as long as they don't win too many games, like, it don't matter even if you have the worst record, it's not virtually a guarantee that you're going to get the number one pick. See the 2011-2012 Charlotte Bobcats, who had the worst record percentage-wise in the history of the NBA, yet they did not get the number one pick, which turned out to be Anthony Davis. So, it goes to show you how much of a crapshoot that NBA lottery really can be. So if the Pistons, as long as even if they had the worst record, without a doubt, it's still not much of a guarantee that they're going to get Victor Wembanyama. So there's that, and there's a reason why Troy Weaver, in a recent interview that he did with The Athletic, has been preaching about patience. There's a reason for that, because there is a process to this. Remember of how excited we were at the possibility of seeing these players, blossom and develop and turn into what their potential can lead them to be. But that takes time, especially when you have a situation to where, your best player is out for the year. So now you got to figure out, configure the pieces and move and react around into that situation. So until you get more consistency from your core group of players, and in my opinion, you get another head coach, then you can start to see more of the tires tread positively with this rebuild with what the Pistons are doing. But there's still positive things to look out for. Like, for example, Jaden Ivey just shared the news that he's going to be a father soon. So very much congrats to Jaden Ivey and his family and his inner circle of continuing the legacy, so to speak. So good to him, good for him, and at least that's some of good news for the Pistons this week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's see here, men's basketball. Transitioning to Michigan Wolverines men's basketball and Michigan State Spartans men's basketball. Michigan, they suffered an overtime loss in Iowa, 93-84, in a game where they got outscored 14-5 in overtime. Michigan had a 4-point lead, but they gave up a 4-point play at the end of regulation, forcing overtime. But they recovered nicely with a 85-75 win over Northwestern this past Sunday. Tomorrow at 7, they're at Maryland on ESPN with the Terps.
Well, this was at least a much-needed win for them. When you mentioned on top of the Iowa loss, let's not forget they had the loss to Michigan State as well before that. But good to see Kobe Buffkin and Jed Howard contributing what they had. Kobe had 20 points. Jed had 16 and 7. It's good to know that even though while Northwestern was coming up strong, trying to make a comeback on them in the second half, the Wolverines held serve. They maintained focus, and they didn't have a repeat of what happened against them, in Iowa. So good on them to get that win. It was a much-needed win. And if you look in terms of standings within the Big Ten conference, it was without a doubt a crucial win. And I'll explain that more after we touch on Michigan State.
Yep. And speaking of Michigan State, they took on number 3 Purdue. They had a battle, but that Edey center was too much. 32 points. Tyson Walker with 30 points in that game. Purdue won 64-63. Edey got that game-winning hook shot with 2 seconds left.
Yeah, I was going to
say. It was a battle. It was a tough one.
It was a battle, yeah, and Izzo was going to have his boys ready for that one, and they don't care what number you are or what ranking you are. You come into the Breslin Center, you're going to get a fight no matter what. So Purdue got that, and it came down literally to the very end of the game, with Edey getting that bucket in the paint, and they still had to stave off of a catch and shoot last play 3 chance by the Spartans. So MSU was game. They were very much game for that. You want to see more consistency, though, because that's now their second consecutive loss after 2 big wins before that in terms of their games against both Michigan and Wisconsin. So to see them drop back-to-back games like that in conference play, mind you, that actually now has them back in the Big Ten conference standings to where it's not too much because they're just 2 games behind Purdue. But
still could I had that game against Illinois in Champaign last Friday night.
Yeah, I know.
But they let it slip through their fingers slowly but surely.
Exactly, just like
75-66.
Just like they let this Purdue game slip, and now they're 2 games behind the Boilermakers in the Big Ten standings, whereas Michigan, they're only 1.5 games behind. So both teams still with some room to tread in terms of not just the Big Ten conference standings, but also with themselves. Because let's not forget, 1 month from today will be the rematch in Chrysler Center between the Wolverines and the Spartans. That could have potential major Big Ten title and / postseason bubble implications. So circle that date for February 18th. That should be a big game in Ann Arbor.
That's at 8 p.m. on Fox in Ann Arbor at Chrysler Center. By the way, State is at Rutgers. It is home against Rutgers at Michigan State at 6:30 on FS1.
So, gotta win those games to keep alive in the conference title hunt.
And then they got Indiana in Bloomington Sunday at noon on CBS.
That should be a good one. You're talking about MSU, right? This is MSU
Yep,
going.
State.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that should be a good one.
yep. Spartans and Hoosiers. Yeah, and then next Thursday on FS1 at 7 p.m. At home, back at home against Iowa on FS1 on
Mm.
January 26th.
Well, again, they have some winnable games coming up, but they got to handle business if they want to, keep pace with behind both Purdue and even Michigan.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of Purdue, they rematch in West Lafayette at Purdue on the 29th on Sunday at 12:15 p.m. on CBS.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that
this
should be,
could be another fight.
yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. That should be AFC. Is that the same as AFC Championship game or before?
Oh, the AFC Championship game is on the 29th.
Yeah,
First,
I
they got
thought
the
so.
wild card, not the wild card, but the divisional round
Okay.
to be exact. This
Yeah, I was just
upcoming
pointing out.
Sunday.
Yeah, I was just pointing out the date because it just slipped in my head. Oh, you mentioned the 29th with Michigan State against Iowa.
Well, against Purdue rather.
Purdue, excuse me. My apologies. Yeah, that
Yeah,
big rematch in West
State
Lafayette.
versus Iowa is on the 26th next Thursday
Right.
on FS1 at 7 p.m. All right. The Detroit Tigers television color commentator Jack Morris has parted ways with Bally Sports Detroit, at least for 2023, due to personal financial matters. Now, Matthew Hutchinson and I were having a text message conversation. Jack Morris was offered by Bally Sports Detroit. They offered him back a little more limited schedule and less money, but he wanted it not to start until after the month of June. So apparently, supposedly in the month of July, starting in July, and they said they wanted it to happen to occur for the entire season, but he told him his son is a senior in high school and he's going to college and he needs the money and he needs enough money to get into college, and Bally Sports is losing a lot of money, so him not signing him not re-signing with them is not a total loss to them, and he parted amicably, but he could be back next year in 2024.
Right. That's the key point mentioning worth out to. I'm glad you brought that up. Good reporting, good source on that too. This was an amicable decision. There was nothing heated or negative or one side did to the other or something that came up by due to
Just
one's
business.
actions. No, it's right. Exactly. Strictly business. And like you said, the way both terms live, it could be a chance that we may see them linked back together for 2024. Because like you said, this seems to be only a temporary situation while Morris makes sure his personal orders are more taken care of in order.
Yep, true. So, by the way, Aiden Hutchinson, before we go,
Yes,
has been a
thank you so much.
finalist for the NFL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's noteworthy that they flat out said it's the Rookie of the Year. Period. They don't have it separated in class defensive Rookie of the Year, offensive Rookie of the Year. They just, I guess, for the purpose of this award, because it is sponsored by Pepsi, they combined it. So you're going to see the rookie standouts on both sides of the ball this year being showcased as nominees. So I think it was Hutch, Sauce Gardner, Kenneth Walker. Those were 3 of the 6 finalists. Garrett Wilson was another one, I believe. I'm sure I'm missing a couple more, but those were the names that I immediately remember that stuck out as the finalists for the Rookie of the Year award. So good on Hutch, rooting for him. Hope he gets it, obviously, of course, but still, even if he doesn't, that's still quite a remarkable achievement that he can say, hey, this is what I did in my rookie year. Not to mention the fact that I believe he received all defensive rookie honors as well, along with Kayvon Thibodeau and others. So again, absolute good job on Hutch for the year that he's had, and you hope to see more of him.
Yeah, I would hope that he gets Rookie of the Year, but I wouldn't be too indignant about it as Tony Dombrowski would.
Right. I'm not gonna live and die over the fact that Hutchinson may not get some meaningless individual postseason award.
Right.
Right. This isn't like even if it was MVP on the line, I still wouldn't care as much.
Right.
I'm caring more of the fact
It's an
that
individual award nonetheless.
yes, it's a nice caveat, but I'm more concerned with the fact that what are you doing on the field that's helping the team win? That's what
Yes.
shows, and that's what shows with Aiden.
Yep, that's true. That
Mind
is
you,
very
think about
valuable.
this. He was doing this while being double teamed, probably the most amongst all pass rushers in the NFL. Not just rookies, not just certain amount of players, like all rushers. We're talking the likes of Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa
In the
in that
entire
group.
NFL. Veterans
Exactly.
too.
Micah Parsons too. He got his fair share of double teams, but no one got double teamed more amongst all pass rushers than Aiden Hutchinson last year, and that was even with the late arrival emergence of James Houston. So if you get another weapon, another guy on that D line to plug next or on the opposite side of Hutch, and in certain key situations or situational moments, you're going to see those double team numbers tick down, and those sack and tackle and hurries and pressure numbers tick up for Hutchinson, without a doubt.
Yep. So, like I said before, my ceiling for them is 11, probably now 12, to be honest, and an NFC North championship.
I'm keeping it at 10. I'm leaning towards 11, but I'm keeping it at 10, and at the very bare minimum, wild card spot for
I
sure.
love your thinking.
Because
So,
think about
yeah,
this.
slow
Think
but
about
sure
this.
progress.
And it's the progress. But think about this: the progress we already made. We went from 3 wins to 9 wins. If you ended this season at 9-8 and over
Triple the
500,
amount.
yeah, the next expectation should be 10-win season next year, and absolutely contending for this division because, like we mentioned last week, Chicago's still going to be stuck in the mud. The Packers, you don't know what the hell's going to happen with the Packers. I think they're going to fall off sooner than later. So now
Even if they kept Aaron Rodgers, whether or not.
even if Rodgers comes back, I think they're going to fall off. So now
Yeah.
that leaves
The
just
Lions
you
have
and
won
the
3
Vikings.
straight against those guys.
Exactly. So now that just leaves you and the Vikings. And in my opinion, you're better than the Vikings. Okay, you proved that in both
Slightly.
games. You proved that in both games that you played against the Vikings this year. And the Vikings proved it themselves by showing their asses against the Giants, the frauds that they are. So yeah, this absolutely is a winnable division for the Lions in 2023. And while I think 10 wins could very well do it, 11 wins for sure could get the job. So my ceiling is 10, 11 wins. Compete, for the division on the last week of the year, and bare minimum should be at a wild card spot because you just missed out on it this year. The expectation should be playoffs next year, no matter what.
Yep, just don't start 1-6 again, like you did.
Cannot do that. Cannot do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that span you had T.J. Hawkinson and Aubrey Pleasant. Not anymore. So that, with all that being said, man, I can't wait. Yeah, the Lions still have the NFL draft, and then free agency, of course. You never know what the hell could happen. But with all of that being said, that is another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast in the can. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Spreaker. Business shout-outs go to Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my t-shirt and long sleeve shirt over there. United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, where Detroit Sports Rag member Jim Lyons works. Ito Ramen House in Royal Oak, rated Detroit's best Japanese restaurant. Call to place an order at 248-556-5775, located in Royal Oak. Or you can visit itoramenhouse.com. Stop by and place an order. You'll love their sushi and Filipino food as well. And finally, the Red Ox Tavern in Auburn Hills, where Jeff Moss did his pilot episode of the Detroit Sports Rag on TV in Auburn Hills. So with that being said, we'll talk to you either next Monday at 8 or next Wednesday at 10. Till then, TTFN, ta-ta for now. Remember, the truth is out there. Hit them with a hind. Power to the people. Case closed.
Take care, everybody. Be safe.
Be safe, yeah.